Uh, Hey guys, welcome back to another live stream here on YouTube. It's Wednesday, 9 o'clock here in Spain. Sorry for those guys in the US that have that change in time, and some people wrote me because they thought it was an hour earlier. But yeah, it's now. Sorry for last week. I basically had a huge amount of work in the studio, recorded like 3 or 4 videos, and I put up a theme list and I don't know how much stuff, and I made it super late. And by the time I got home, it was basically 5 minutes before the live stream, so I just canceled it and changed it to this week. Also, I'll remind you guys later, but next week I have a meeting in a town close by at night, so I won't be able to do it on Wednesday. Maybe I'll try to schedule for Thursday, but I'm not sure for that. So yeah, today will be a live stream, next week no, and then the next week yes, probably, even though it's Easter holiday. I don't know, I have to check it out. But yeah, hi guys, Barbas, A Green, Analog Adventure, and TV Photo. Let me start with first a question from Spain, which very nicely wrote me an email this morning and asked me this following question. I am traveling in a few weeks to shoot a project with my 4x5. I will probably take somewhere between 25 to 40 images. I only have 5 film holders, so I would need to bring a changing bag. But what do I need other than that? Empty film boxes. How can I label the film so I know how to develop comparing with my notes? So the first thing you need if you're going to be shooting large format is usually try to have a few spare empty boxes. Because that way each box can be labeled depending on the film you shot, or if film is exposed by the zone system, you can have different, you know, N1, N, N-1, N+1, and all that on the different boxes. If you happen to not have any empty boxes, I'll tell you how I've done it before, and I recommend it for people that don't have any. What I do is I use the same box that has my new film, so unexposed film, and it usually comes inside a plastic bag or a sleeve. So what I do is I keep the unexposed film inside the box. It usually has 2 cardboard, little top and bottom, which I've heard a few people try to expose that cardboard to light and nothing happened because they misloaded it. And then I keep my shots under the cardboard or under the plastic. So that means I have a sandwich where my unexposed film is on the top and my exposed film is on the bottom. Also, what I try to do is my notches on my unexposed film is on one side. I'll change the notch of the exposed so it's on the other side. So that way it's easier for me when I try to load, I touch and I'm like, oh, there's no notch. That means this was exposed, and I keep it down. It's quite complicated to make sure that you don't screw up. It's very simple to screw up. And if you're doing different shots with different N+1, N-1, and different developing times and stuff like that, or if you're using different emulsions, but it's like FOMA pan, which it all has the same notch, it's impossible to know unless you are extremely careful and you load, unload in an order, and you write down the bottom one is FOMA 100, the next one is FOMA 200. But I would find that impossible to figure out once you're loading your developing tank. I've been able to put in the same box 3, 4 different emulsions. And when I'm developing, I can feel the notch, and I already have like a finger that's like I can read Braille basically on the film. And when I read the notch, I can be like load Tri-X, load T-Max, load HP5, load FOMA. So I can tell by touching the notches which one's which. But I don't recommend that to anyone that's not familiar with it. Analog Adventure, I will at least shoot different ISO settings. We'll shoot a building both outside and inside. So Svein, try not to shoot FOMA, because if you're shooting FOMA 100 and 400, it's exactly the same notch. And if you do, change boxes, unload in different boxes. That should be enough. 3 boxes should be more than enough. Joseph says, hey Nico, any tips for RA4 printing. I got a free color head for my enlarger, a spectrometer thing, and some paper tanks and motorized base. I want to try it out. Okay, so for RA4, I haven't done it in a while, but I will get back to it. And I have done it with one of my partners in the darkroom. So I've helped him out, and I've seen how he's done it. And I remember all the steps. First thing, color head, great. You have a color head, that's the first thing you need. Second, you don't need the spectrometer or a color analyzer or anything like that. That at the end just adds more steps. I find it a lot more work. Go on eBay and find the Kodak viewing filters. There are these set of filters that come in the plastic little like a wallet, and you pull them out and it has cyan, magenta, and all that. So you basically look at your picture through those gels, and with the light you're going to use to view the picture, because color temperature changes a lot depending if you're inside with daylight bulbs or you're in tungsten light or if you're fluorescent light. With the final light, you use those little viewing filters or gels, and you check your print, and that little by little you change the filtration. So right now I can't tell you off the top of my head what's a base filtration for any color negative, but I will look it up and write you. But yeah, and then basically work in the dark, get used to loading and unloading the tank in the dark. And basically that's about it. And then just expose and have fun. Color paper is pretty inexpensive compared to black and white. A box of 8x10s, 100 sheets is like 30 bucks, so it's extremely cheap. But it's so much fun, so go for it. And if you have any specifics, I can try to see if I can make a little quick video for you to watch. Spain says I will shoot 100% FOMA, 100 and 400, but I think I will have one box ISO 100 and 400 and one 1600. So you'll skip the N+1. Yeah, that's the best way. So keep a box per ISO because of that same notch. Pedro, hi, I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I'm pretty good. I've been recording a lot of content. I've had a bit of a hard drive fail, not fail, but I overloaded my computer, and I've been trying to figure out how to empty it. Making 4K video with multiple cameras eats up your storage very fast. There's a video already uploaded for tomorrow, and there'll be another one for Friday, guys. I hope you enjoy that. They're quick and fun kind of videos. I screwed up a few things I bought, and I thought I could share my experience with you guys as an example of being more careful when you purchase. So yeah, there'll be a video up. For those on Patreon, you can see it already today. I posted it there a few hours ago. Also, my Kickstarter campaign, someone was asking, and I'm so sorry. Things have gotten out of control in terms of being so busy. And finally, this weekend, I will be printing the rewards Sunday and Monday, which is holiday here in Spain. I'll be all day in the darkroom printing your rewards. So if you're a backer, first, thank you for your patience and your support. And second, go over to Kickstarter, check the prints, and let me know what sizes and what prints you will want. And the video will be hopefully finished this weekend. I'm going to try to edit as much as I can Friday and Saturday and have it out. Sorry, now let me get back to you guys. Camille, hi. TV photos, speaking of filters, I got the Ilford contrast filters for black and white. Haven't had the time to try them out. Thanks for the tips. You're welcome. I'm glad you found them, and I'm sure they'll work great with you. Pedro Cardoso, I have been printing in the darkroom, but I have used the technique a bit different from the split grade. I use the filter 00 to find the whites, and then I make a print with the times of the 00 filter, and then a second print with the filter 5 and find the black tones. I mean, that's kind of the split grade. What you do is you do the 00 print or test for the whites, and then you expose that to one sheet to that 00 time, and then you do the testing on that same sheet for the 5 filter until you find the blacks, and that gives you a split grade. And then you can adjust depending on burning and dodging and stuff. JKL, if you push film, which stages you have to do longer in developing? JKL, when you push film, what you're basically doing is you're exposing the film less to light. So you're giving it less light. So it means when you develop, you have to develop for longer time, or you can also develop in warmer chemistry. So for example, if you're pushing 1 stop, it's typically known to do a 33% extra time, but you could also add temperature and keep the same time. So it's very normal that people develop at 20 degrees or 68 Fahrenheit. And if you want to push, instead of developing at 68 or 20, you can do 24 degrees or whatever it is in Fahrenheit. Sorry if I don't know. And that would mean the stop, bath, and fixer have to be the same. Well, photo flow and washing is all the same. It's just developing that changes. Analog Adventure says, wow, you are productive. Yeah, I've been trying to keep myself really on a discipline of editing and recording and posting. I've been posting a lot on Patreon. I've been doing a little behind the scenes of how I record. Something that's different to this show, you know, showing my digital cameras, which are the ones I record, the studio setups, lightings, and stuff. I never wanted to make something different for Patreon, but I feel so thankful for those that are there helping me out, that I'm just showing them a little bit of behind the scenes that I think might clutter the YouTube channel, but on Patreon, I feel it's okay. But some videos I'll upload openly on Patreon, so you can check even though you're not a backer or Patreon. And everything will end up being here. The final videos will be here. I recorded a video on Sunday that I will hopefully post next week beginning, which I think will be very interesting. We'll see how it goes. Let me see. Camille says, I prefer RA4 printing or scan and print from, oh, you prefer RA4 printing or scan and print from files. Well, to answer what I prefer going all the way through, that was my wife, sorry, all the way through the shooting film, developing film, printing in a darkroom. But that's because I guess I'm a bit of, you know, I kind of dislike the whole computer part of things. Not that I don't respect others that do it, it's just that it's not for me. So scanning, I strongly dislike. I had to scan some images. I'm bad at it. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I guess I don't understand it, and that makes me not like it. But I like printing. So if I have to prefer, I prefer RA4 printing. The only thing is you are very limited when you print on RA4 because there's so much you can do under the light. There's a great video by George from Negative Feedback about printing, optically printing from a scan and different papers and such. It's pretty interesting on his Negative Feedback channel. Ludmin, hola, el ground glass de la F1 es suficientemente luminoso, sería muy necesario agregar un Fresnel. Ludmila, the F1 ground glass is very bright. You don't need a Fresnel screen. But the F1 is now discontinued from Chamonix, and the F2 comes with a Fresnel, so it's already added there. The Barbas. Hello, Nico. A few days ago, I asked you about photography books via email. My name is Pedro Botello. Yeah, Pedro asked me through an email if I could give him a list of my photo books. And I mean, I'm not a photo book collector or photography book collector, but listing those books would take me way too long. So I don't know if I should make a video on my photo book collection. I feel that's just like a filler for a YouTube channel. But I actually have 2 books that I was going to share with you guys. For those interested in learning large format, I've been buying books for my large format series just in case there's something that I thought I could share with you guys that I had no clue about. so far, everything's been pretty in the same line as what I knew or I've learned. But I picked up 2 books which I found extremely helpful. One is Kodak's Book of Large Format Photography. I bought this for, I think, $20 or so. It includes digital imaging, so this is just at the beginning of digital photography. It has all kinds of examples, diagrams, and such. It's, I find, a very, very helpful book. So Kodak, Book of Large Format Photography, very interesting and helpful. It's 106 pages, loading film, different film filters, movements, all that. And then a book that's been out for a very long time that's very famous too, and I found to be, so far, I think the best book I've seen regarding lenses and stuff, is the Using the View Camera by Steve Simmons. Steve Simmons is the guy that ran the View Camera magazine, and the View Camera magazine closed, sadly, and this book is still available secondhand. And I think if you write Steve Simmons through Facebook, which I try to befriend him, and I think he doesn't friend strangers, you can buy it on PDF version. So if you want to get it, it's pretty interesting. You guys in the US, probably it's cheap. Color pictures, black and white, also diagrams, filters. It gives you like advice on first lenses, first cameras, shutters. There's a lot of information that I think is really good. The zone system is here and whatnot. Let me see. The Barba says, View Camera Technique, Robert Leslie. I have not seen that book, Pedro, but I'll check it out. I'm taking a screenshot right now. Ludmila says, another one. I'll be shooting for the first time with some Provia, and I just wanted to know the best way for metering it. I was thinking on measuring the highs and lows and then put it somewhere in the middle. Ludmila, what happens with slide film is slide film has very little latitude. So if there's a lot of light and very dark areas, you're going to have to not see what you think is the most interesting part of the image and meter for that. So if the highlights are really important, then meter for a mid-tone inside the highlights and leave the dark, just go black. Because if you meter for the darker areas and you forget about the highlights, they're just going to go white, like nuclear white. So you can't expose, I don't expose very, very contrasty scenes on slide. And if I do, you have to sacrifice something, either highlights or the shadow area. So, I mean, doing a middle between both should do pretty good, but try to think about what in the scene is necessary so you can, you know, shoot and meter accordingly. Yeah, overexposing, as Camille says on slide, looks so awful. Yeah, I rather underexpose just a tad. And the sky, try to keep the sky blue. White sky in slides is terrible. That's why I kind of stopped shooting slides too. Pedro Cardoso, I have developed paper with 17 degrees. It's difficult to have 20 degrees in the bathroom, and it's fine. It has been fine, but I wanted to ask you whether the temperature can influence the contrast on paper. Yes, the contrast on paper can be influenced by temperature. There's a minimum temperature, I think it's around 15 degrees, where the, I'm going to say this in Spanish, sorry guys, the hidroquinona, which is the basic component in the developer, will kind of like slow down hugely, like the reciprocity up, but the other way around on paper, and it will affect contrast. Pedro, if you can't develop at 17 degrees in the bathroom, just use hot water in the bathroom. I mean, also you can use is a little thermometer, one of those cables for reptiles to warm up their, like, how do you call those, little, you know, terrarium. They sell those cables, they're waterproof. You put it in the water, under the water, and you turn it on, and it should keep the temperature in your trays around 20 degrees easily, but you should be fine. Federisker Chao from Spain. The Barba says, it's very expensive, but I saw reviews on Amazon saying that the book a Robert Leslie is better than the Steve Simmons. Oh, maybe it is. I'll see if I can find it. Not so expensive. Pedro Cardoso said, on the Instagram stories, you said you liked scanning film. It had to be a joke. It was a joke. I got a few people write me saying that, how could I like it? I very much dislike it. It was just being sarcastic. I had a photo shoot with my daughters, and I was scanning to see if I could upload a video about it. And I just don't like it. It's very bad. I was shooting with the Mamiya RZ, and I'm going to start testing out this 65. This is a 65 LA, which has a floating element. So what you do is you focus your scene, and then once you know the distance, you set the floating element to that right distance to get sharp images. But it's pretty big, and I'm excited to take it out and see how it looks. 65 was always my favorite on the Mamiya RZ. The book on alternative photography process is also very good. I have a few books, I think, on alternative. I have some on carbon printing that I enjoy, but I'm still not ready to do it myself. I'll keep reading for now. Camille says, for scanning color film, I found a preset for Photoshop from one guy in Romania. He made it basing on RA4 printing, and it works really great. 90% of my scans, it's one click to great results. That's good to know. I don't even know how to open Photoshop, basically. I open Photoshop for my thumbnails on YouTube, and someone set it so I only have to click the text. So that's like how much I can do on Photoshop. So not even that one click would work for me. The Cantrell project, do you like scanning a print better? How do you like sharing your work online? Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I really don't like sharing much of my work, mostly because I don't think a scan makes much justice. I've been asked many times where are my pictures and why do I only take pictures of my cameras and stuff like that. And it's mostly because, first, I'm very bad at scanning. Second, when I've paid for someone to scan, it never looks half as good as a print I've made. I've never tried scanning a print. Dust is terrible when you scan prints, even though I've tried scanning Polaroids. That's why I think dust is a big problem. So sharing my work online, it's a good question because I don't really do it and I'm not very good at it. But I guess scanning the negative would be the best way, and then trying to work. I can use Lightroom just about, but yeah, I'm not very good at sharing work. I wish I was better. I need to learn how to scan properly and how to edit my work on a computer just to share, especially for videos and stuff. I'm not a big fan of doing any Instagram sharing and stuff. And Instagram's turned out right now to be one of the worst places to share and create a community. It used to be fun, and I find it extremely boring. So I'm basically not logging onto Instagram unless I have a message or someone writes me because they have a question. So yeah, that's, how do you guys prefer to do sharing online? I know a lot of people out there share their work online only. They basically don't print in the darkroom. They don't print at stores. But I find printing is the part I like the most. I enjoy going in the darkroom and taking my time to print, taking my time to check, to go through the negatives. I actually uploaded one picture I scanned on Sunday that came from my Fuji GW680, which I didn't know if it worked. And it did. And I'm going to make a video on that camera because I've had a big issue with the film I loaded last. And someone was asking me if I had shot CineStill a few live streams ago. And I haven't, mostly because every time I load a film that's not this film, excuse me that I go get it. Every time I load something that's not my go-to film, which is Ilford HP5, I have a problem is that I never shoot it. I loaded CineStill on my Fuji GW680. I took 2 or 3 shots, and it's been sitting there ever since. My problem is the tungsten film means I should shoot indoors with tungsten light, and when I'm indoors, I never shoot, usually. So it's turned to a big problem in finishing the roll. They just opened a Burger King up the road, and I'm about to go shoot it at night just for the sake of finishing the roll and putting some normal film like HP5, which is what I use most of the time. Analog Adventure says, I print both in darkroom and on inkjet. I've never done inkjet, and I probably will never do it. I just don't, I don't think I would enjoy my work like that. My problem is that edited prints from Photoshop and inkjet looks 100 times better than what I can do in the darkroom. I'm just not a good darkroom printer. I mean, I have the same problem as Spain here. I'm not a good printer either. I try to do my best every time, and I learn slowly. But I'm even a worse digital imaging computer guy, and I don't have an inkjet, so I can't print that way. And when I have seen prints that way, I've not enjoyed them at all. The only stuff I've seen that I've loved has been exhibits where they've mixed silver and inkjet or something like it, and it looked just the same. At least to my eye, it looked the same. But I have a feeling they did some kind of like more than just print it from an inkjet. Maybe they did an internegative and then they printed it through the silver normal way, but no clue. Joey says, if you split grade, it's so much easier. My darkroom prints looks pretty much the same as my scans. Yeah, I do split grade when I think it's necessary. I gave a workshop the other day in the darkroom to a student of mine that had been printing, but he'd be printing just with one grade. And we tried different prints and different negatives, and he brought one of a scene in the snow. And I've never printed snow before, and I have to say it's probably the hardest thing to do, because of course you've got white, but the snow is white, but the shade of the snow is gray. Then they had trees, which were black and gray. And it was so hard to retain the highlights without them going into that gray, muddy gray, and the dark tones to stay dark and not just like muddy dark. And we ended up doing a split grade, and it worked really well. So yeah, split grade does help a lot. Pedro says, another day I took a picture with my Canon 5D Mark II to a photo I made in the darkroom, and I have more detail and dynamic range on paper than in the digital photo. It's hard. I mean, paper does have a smaller range of tones. That's why we have to use different filters, and we can use burning and dodging. About digital range or dynamic range, I'm not an expert, but I know that every time I see a picture on Instagram that someone took of a print, I know there's half of the like detail is gone because the highlights are clipped and the darks are just dark and black. And I never judge by seeing what I see online. I rather grab a print and see it in person. And that's why I try to do that. Analog Adventure, I started in digital, so that's why I know. The gallery inkjet prints might be piezoography prints. It's special inkjets for 7 to 9 different types of black simulated platinum printing. I don't know what exhibit it was. It was, I think it was Winogrand had both silver original prints and modern digital hybrid or something prints, and I couldn't tell the difference. Analog Adventure says you need to permanently convert your printer to black and white, but it looks so good. Yeah, I don't have a printer, so I can't convert anything. Plus, I've just built a huge darkroom. I'm not going to start doing any of that right now. But yeah, I finished the darkroom and it's ready to print. So that's why the first thing I'm printing on a regular printing session is going to be my Kickstarter. And I'll try to share as much as I can from that process. I did record the developing the film, the story about what I shot, why I shot it, and everything. And now that I'm going to be printing, I'll try to do the whole finish to making like my rewards, a video about them. Pedro Cardoso says, and it seems to me I have less grain in a darkroom photo than in a scan. That is something I've noticed too. My prints, when I shoot in 1600 film, well, I push HP5 to 1600. And if I scan it, I see grain that I don't see on paper. I think paper, the texture in paper, kind of absorbs that grain. And I also think scanners try to extract more information from the negative than there is. So sometimes it creates that kind of like feel of grain that it's not so obvious when you're printing. So unless you're printing huge, I've never had a big issue with that. I will be testing the Kodak T-Max 3200 and seeing how far I can go, grain and stuff in the darkroom and scanning, even though my scanning skills are terrible, but I'll try. But yeah. TV Photo says, want to get more into the darkroom for black and white. Color and negatives is just scan for now. But like David Chan, camera store owner, put it, digital is fast food and analog is the home kitchen. Yeah, I'm all about getting into the darkroom more, and hopefully I'm going to try to see if, apart from making videos and showing the results on the videos, if the shots I think are worth it, I want to try to offer prints from the videos. So if I go and shoot different, like if I go shoot with this setup and any of the images I think are worth it, I'll print them and I'll maybe open a little store. So if anyone wants to help that way, it can be. Also, those rewards will go to Patreons who support that tire. But yeah, I want to do more darkroom. It's what I enjoy the most. Anyone wants to know how big Mamiya RZ is? Here you have a Leica M6 on top of a Mamiya RZ. As you can see, it's pretty much as tall as the Leica, almost as wide as the Leica is long, and like 2 times the Leica camera in size. So yeah, it's pretty big. But it's easily my favorite camera, and I think I've said that before, but I will be making a video about why it's my favorite camera. Though bellows is probably my favorite feature on a medium format camera. You can get up close, which you can't on many other brands. Famous, like the Hasselblad camera, is a pain to do anything closer up than the minimum focusing on the lens. So you have to start with extension rings, then you have to start calculating how much light each extension ring. You have to mount them and unmount them in a specific way. If not, your camera will jam or your lens will jam, and then it's probably the worst system for macro, the Hasselblad. Fede says, how do you know when there is a misalignment off the camera? Because I just developed a new film using a just bought Olympus OM10 and with a 28 Ozek super lens. How do you know when there's a misalignment on the camera? Sorry guys, I'm like allergic today. How do you know? What I've done in cameras and lenses that I've seen with an issue, I've grabbed a reflex camera, and in this case it was a Pentax 6x7, and I had the split screen, and what I would do is I would focus something at the infinite and turn the lens all the way to infinite, and the split screen was not matching, so that meant that something was wrong. And in this case, it was the ground glass, the focusing glass was wrong. Someone had mounted it. It had like 3 layers, and the ground glass was not on the bottom like it should be. It was on top of a Fresnel. So even though it had been to the repairman and they said it was fine, which it wasn't, there was a misalignment in that. Also, you can focus on something on a tripod, open the film back. You can grab some Scotch tape, that tape that's a little frosted, and you stick it to the back as like tense as possible, and you check with a little loop to see if you see the image. It's kind of using it like a large format camera. So if you're focusing on something very contrasty and very straight and very easy to see, you put that little bit of tape and you check to see, because the projected image, you should see it focused. If it says focused on the eyepiece, it should be focused on the tape. And if it's focused on the eyepiece and it's not on the tape, something's wrong. I hope that solved your question. Analog Adventure. Last time I was in the darkroom, I felt the fixer smell was a bit stronger than usual. I have a fan, but I forgot was the 600 tons of snow covering my ventilation shaft outside. Yeah, be careful with ventilation. I mean, try to have something. One thing I recommend if you have a darkroom and you don't have a big or a good ventilation is every single time you don't need to have the door closed, open the door, keep a little bit of current. Only have the door closed when you're pulling out paper and you're in that few minutes that it takes for paper to be fixed, and then you open the door again and that's it. Not ideal, but it's better than nothing. Fede says it's not sharp or in focus. Check that, what I told you, Fede. A little bit of tape, shoot the lens, and then look. So you shoot, you look on the loop, then you advance, and you look through the viewfinder. Pedro says, some time ago I used the lab with an old Noritsu to print a photo and I see some grain, and with the enlarger it's not visible. I'm telling you, my prints that I shoot with 1600 film, printed on the wall, which I have one there and a few there, are grainless. There's no grain at all. And when I scanned, a friend had scanned my 1600 film shots, same negatives, on a Pac-On and on a Hasselblad Imicon. I see the grain. I'm not telling you you're zooming 100%. Like you zoom at the same size I have printed and you see more grain. I wish I could say why, but I feel like just scanners kind of like hunt a little bit more, and paper hides a bit more of that grain, which is pleasing to see that grain's not everywhere. But yeah, any other questions, guys? And let me know. We have around 20 minutes left. Next week, as I said, I won't be joining you guys because I'm going to go to a town, and on Sunday, Martin Parr is going to be here. So I'm going to see you on Wednesday. I can see if I can organize to do a little photo shoot if it's allowed. So that's why I'm going to be missing the live stream. Let me see. Analog Adventure. Ever tried a Hoodman loop when using a large format camera? What do you mean a Hoodman? I have never tried a Hoodman loop. Hoodman loop. Is that some brand? Okay, my internet's working, but not working. Let's see if my internet works. Meanwhile, let me know if you know, Svein, what do you mean? Phil Nena says, I'm a HP5 user too, thinking of testing some Delta 400. Do you have any opinions on Delta? I've never shot Delta before, but I do know it's a T grain compared to classic grain. It will probably give you cleaner images because T grain does look sharper and cleaner. It will probably look a bit more, and excuse the comparison, digital, because it's kind of like if you shot in digital and then you convert to black and white. Those Delta and T-Max films kind of give you amazing, like, you know, like it just looks really good. Sometimes so good that I'm telling you, it looks like it's not shot on film, but it is. I just bought some T-Max 100 and 4x5, so I'll be testing that. And yeah, that's all I can say. I've never shot Delta except for the 3200, and that was extremely grainy, of course. But yeah, you should have good results. It's just get used to it being way more smooth on the tonality, sharper, less grain, and fix it for a little more. Because T-grain film or tabular film needs a bit more fixing. Delta, says Camille, and DDX is awesome. 0 grain, full of details. Never tried DDX. I'm the one guy developer so far. Analog Adventure, yes, it's a brand, but it's a type of loop movie guys use to cover the back LCD on digital cameras. That sounds expensive. I use a $15 loop from Peak, and it works great. So far, no issues. Oh, Lumia says, for what I saw on Google Images, looks like a loop for digital screens, the Hoodman thing. Yeah, I can imagine kind of sort of what it's like. Yeah, my computer is not liking the live stream. Hoodman. Or Google's just not wanting to work. Hoodman. Yeah, don't use this unless you have it already. Oh my God, this looks like such an abomination. Yeah, I use a Peak loop. Works great. Fits in your pocket. And if it breaks, you can buy like 6 more for less than $100. Sorry, phone's buzzing, which it shouldn't. Phil Nena, thanks Nico, especially the tip on fixing. I reused my Ilford fixer a couple of times, perhaps a fresh batch when I tried Delta. So what you can do also, Phil Nena, is you can put a drop of your fixer onto exposed film, like a piece of your leader, cut a little bit and put a drop, and you have to measure the time, and depending on the time, you apply a factor, and that will tell you if your fixer is working. I've tried it with old fixer and it worked great. It wasn't an important project or anything like that. So let me see. I'm trying to see if I can find right now easily. No, I can't find it. Let's see. Analog Adventure. I have a cheap one that works better than my standard loop. What I found is on the loops is if they're too much magnification, it's so annoying. Someone in a workshop the other day came with it 20 times, and all you could see is like a pixel of the ground glass. It was so small. So I use a 4, 5, or 6 times magnification, and that's been working really good. So that's what I just use, and so far so good. But of course, you need to block the light so you can focus on your screen. Edwin says, ever tried screen printing? No. And screen printing as photography or screen printing like a t-shirt? Because I've never tried any of those. I've seen a few videos on how it's done, but no, I haven't done screen printing. Let's see if I can find the fixer thing. Let's see if I can find the Ilford Rapid Fixer. Should be a PDF somewhere here. See if it says something about fixing Delta compared to fixing the normal. Mixing, no. Film, fixing, general purpose film. I wonder what general purpose film is. fixing times. Here it says if you're doing 1 for dilution, 2 to 5 minutes. I would say more 5 than 2. Washing, replenishment. Yeah, Film clearing time. In order to avoid the risk of insufficient fixing, I'm reading for the PDF from Ilford, film should remain in the fixer for twice the time it takes for the emulsion to clear. So there you go. You got to put your film a little bit in the fixer mixed, and whatever time it tells you, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 60 seconds, you do double. Fixer should be discarded when the clearing time in used fixer exceeds twice the clearing time in fresh fixer. So you mix a new batch, put a piece of film. If it takes 60 seconds, when you're reusing it, if it takes more than double that, so if it's taking 120 seconds, you discard the old fixer and you get a new one. And following the next method, take a piece of scrap unprocessed film and place it a drop with a working strength fixer on a small part of the emulsion side. Leave it until the emulsion under the drop is a clear spot. This should take 30 to 60 seconds. Immerse the piece of film in the fixer bath and using a stop clock, time how long it takes for the rest of the film to clear. Clearing can be judged by comparing the surrounding film area to the clear central spot. The time taken for the rest of the film to clear is the clearing time. The fixing time needs to be double the clearing time. So there you go. Let me just grab this, copy, and paste it. Oh, I did it right. Edwin says for photography. No, sorry, I've never screen printed in photography. Analog Adventure, I want to try printing inkjet negative transparent film so that I can contact print in the darkroom. Best of both worlds. Well, that's a question that I think can be answered in a few different ways. Most people do that. So people that are doing carbon process, cyanotypes, platinum, palladium, and stuff like that, they shoot large format sometimes, and they scan, they digitally manipulate, print into a transparent negative, and then they do the contact print at the size they want. You can see Ted Forbes went to a gallery somewhere in, I think, Colorado, where they do that. I know a few people around Europe that do it, and I know that Sandy King, which is basically the king of carbon transfer, used to do real in-camera negatives and then straight to carbon, and now does like 5x7 shots, then scans inner negative, and then does that with carbon. So my guess is that it works really well, and probably is the best of both worlds. Filnenas, I hope you saw the link. But yeah, just check for fixing those T-grain films. Let's see if we can find Delta 400 PDF. Okay, not PFD. Nico. PDF. What did it say for fixing? Guys, if you ever need anything, write whatever film or product and the brand and write PDF. Kodak, Fuji, and Ilford have PDFs for every single thing they made. Kodak has PDFs that you wouldn't even imagine are still there. They're so hard to find, though. You just have to Google and they'll find. But if you go to the website and try to look for them, they're impossible. Let's see. Developing times. Spiral tank, non-developer, dip and dunk. Processing. Stop bath. Stop, fix, wash, and rinse. Fix. Just says rapid fixer, the time that it says, 2 to 5 minutes. Yeah, that's about all they say. Just make sure to test it out. Okay, guys, 10 more guys, 10 more minutes, and any other questions you have, let me know. There's another thing that I wanted to let you guys kind of know, even though it's still not done, but I'm gonna do, apart from the news that I do every week, I'm gonna start working on a different kind of news video. When I do the news, I try to be as objective as possible. So I just try to say whatever has been the news in the week. So if Ilford came out with a new film, or Kodak discontinued something, or Fuji did too, I just kind of like say it and try to explain a bit of what it's about. But I always feel like I could go so much more in depth into not each, but a lot of the news. And I'm thinking about doing something in those terms of trying to get a piece of news once a week, or once every 10 days, or once every 2 weeks, depending on the timing and preparing, and giving more of an opinion about the release, a discontinuation, anything like that. That's basically kind of what you're saying, Joseph. It would kind of be like what I wanted to do on the Daily Grain. Actually, the name of the series might be the Daily Grain, because the Daily Grain was a website that I was trying to work on that was all about film news and articles, interviews, but I'm overwhelmed with the channel and my current job, or my full-time job, and I can't really do what I wanted to do on the Daily Grain. It's still going to be there. I'm maintaining the servers and the website, and hopefully one day I can dedicate a lot more time to it. But it just came to the point that it was either I was making videos or I was doing the Daily Grain. And this is why I will try to do these news videos where I will give as much information as possible, but I will also give my view on it. And I will try to host people to give their view and their opinion on it, and we can start a conversation. So it's going to be something like you would have on the morning show on TV. We all know that. They talk about the news, and they bring an expert, and they bring a this, and they say, and then they go interview people on the street, and then they come back. So it'll be something like that, about a piece of news every now and then. So depending on the subject, I would invite or ask viewers or people in the business to give their opinion, and I would compose a video about the subject. So it would be kind of like in-depth videos on different things that come out in the news. Maybe go through, just search what's coming through there. And about the Daily Grain and the website, Joey, I do want to continue, but I really have to settle in a point where I can maybe take my job a little less time at work, but that yet has to come. I'm trying my best, but still, I mean, YouTube and making videos take a lot of time already, and I really can't not be working to be doing that. So sadly, I have to leave it aside and keep on with the normal work and YouTube, which so far has worked pretty well. Fede says, hey, I bought a few weeks ago an Olympus Ace E in perfect conditions for super cheap, under 100 euros. It's the first time I'm using a rangefinder. Any tips? Rangefinder work, like working on with a rangefinder, what I can say is tips. First of all, enjoy it. I think rangefinders are so much fun. I've never had tried one till a friend basically gave me his Leica M2, and ever since I never let go of it. I would say stop down the lens if you can, because focusing sometimes is hard. I would say, I don't know, try to think about how other people work, be fast, shoot a lot. Don't think that you're going to get a one shot of, don't worry so much about composition and keeping everything straight. Like rangefinder work it's a bit of a guesstimate. You're shooting through a viewfinder that's not through the lens. So you could get good or bad results depending on how good or how much practice you do. But yeah, you should just enjoy it. Just, go shoot, and don't think, just take a lot of shots, develop a lot of film, and see how you like it. Joseph says, you've got a lot on your plate. We all appreciate your effort. Thanks, guys. I do think I can slowly organize myself to do a bit more in terms of the website and stuff. So that's why I'm trying to keep a bit of a schedule with the news on Tuesdays, the live streams on Thursdays. I want to try to bring back more film loading videos because those always work really well. I know they're silly in many ways, but also they're very helpful to other people. The most funny videos of like loading an Instax camera have probably helped more people than any others, because sometimes the most simple things are the ones that people are not sure. And we always see it from the point of view of being already film shooters and used to the community. But there's a lot of people out there, they're brand new to film or don't even know what film is. And those people are the ones that are going to search for these videos. And I want to think that they have somewhere to, learn and to get the support they need to start. Because if we just go straight to the full-time film user, we'll never have people start, Filnena says, I learned from using a Leica 3 that it is quicker to use zone or hyper focusing and use the rangefinder only for critical large aperture shots. Yeah, I mean, that is a good tip. Hyperfocal is probably something you want to learn about. Let me see if I can see myself because I'm just watching the chat. On your lens, you'll have some lines that usually give you the depth of field at a certain aperture. So you can stop down your lens, for example, f16, and you'll get, in this case, f16 right now, where it is right now, everything from 1 meter to almost 5 meters would be focused. It's totally backlit. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, basically zone focusing is what I do. That's why I push my film to 1600. So I'll keep it at 2 meters and I'll just shoot my kids maybe a little closer if I know I'm shooting closer. But yeah, as Filnena said, if you're shooting wide open, then you do want to focus properly. But if you're shooting outdoors and you're pushing your film like I do, you can stop down your lens and you can hyperfocal focus. But yeah, guys, it's 2 minutes to 10. Any last questions or comments, let me know. If not, as I said, I will be back in 2 weeks because the next week I'm going to be out at a photo book thingy here in Spain. Hopefully getting a few interviews ready for the channel. There's a book collector that lives close by that I want to interview, and then there's a few other people that are gonna go. So yeah, thanks guys for everything, and I'll see you in 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how things go with Easter and the kids and holidays. But yeah, thank you very much for all your questions and all your support. Sorry for last week. I know a few people asked me if I was okay because I really just canceled it. I should have left the note and left the stream up just so you guys knew. But yeah, guys, thank you so much, and see you next week. Good night.